Hello everyone, I'm Anand. I'm working as an iOS developer here at Kaya. So the question here for today is native apps or hybrid apps, which is better? So if any of you have any opinions regarding this, please do share. Anyone?
It's more of a personal preference, right? So if your technology stack is pure web, and I also say if a client doesn't have enough budget, you always go for the hybrid, and you can compromise on performance, and you want to go completely native when you want to have like real time kind of applications like gaming or animations or graphics. And even if it's simple, if your client has budget to throw, you always go for native. Then it all depends on what your team structure is, right? If your team size is small and you have non-native developers, you go for hybrid.
So I have again a clarifying question. So when you say hybrid, what kind of hybrid?
Native apps are basically for if it's for iOS, it's basically Swift or Objective C. Hybrid apps can be made in general languages like HTML, JavaScript, etc., and it will be run on a native wrapper. So it can be any general language.
Again, that you need to go a little further than that, right? So you can basically say, okay, I have a native wrapper and I have a web view and I put a web page in that. That's a hybrid app. Or you can say I have Xamarin Tools, Xamarin Studio. I'm compiling in C# with your business logic in C# and iOS and Android by index. Or you can go down Telerik path and say, okay, native script, and basically creates VMs that you have individual APKs for each of them, right? So it's kind of like a, so when I always go when I hear this whole native versus hybrid debate, right? It's always like this old debate that we used to have back in the day between, do you want to write only Windows or you want to write Windows and Mac or what have you, right? So it's if you look at mobile, right? Personally, for me, the way I see it is that it's the next generation of computer. So when you looked at computers, you had Linux computers, you had Windows computers, you had Mac computers, and you always had to make a choice. If you wanted to write native applications, you wrote it for Windows. It's a Windows application. You wrote Linux applications, and then you wrote this thing, and then you had something come along that said, "I'm Java. I can write for every application and every platform," and you got crappy UI everywhere, and uh, you lived with it, and so on and so forth, right? So it's the same kind of thing that I'm seeing evolving out here, where what you have is like in the initial space you have like, okay, you're an iOS guy and you write iOS apps and that's it, and you're an Android guy and you write Java apps for Android and that's it, and then over time somebody comes and says, hey, here's this nice little toolkit, and we can write things, and it evolves over time, and for me, basically, uh, I'm kind of sad that we seem to be repeating the same problem, same mistakes again and again. So you've got a desktop PC computers, and you've got these three worlds. Now you got mobiles, you got two worlds. Maybe for wearables there'll be one world. I don't know. I mean AI or virtual computing or VR or what have you. But again, so that's why I find that particular question is more nuanced than it seems, because when you say native and you say, okay, native only is iOS or Swift, right? So then how do you basically validate that against somebody who's written a custom VM, right? Who's basically writing C# code, but it is getting linked to iOS. So that's almost native. You're targeting native bindings anyway, right? So that's my take on it.
Adding some more point to Nikhil's discussion. That good is very subjective, I think. On what context you are asking, which is good. Yeah, got it. But in a business context, we would like to get more projects in hybrid, but we would like to build the client in a native app, like a native app. For hybrid, we can deploy, we can convert any JavaScript, any script development guy into a mobile developer with less effort, or the very less learning curve is there. But for native, we can build more to our client. Like why the Facebook was released their application as a hybrid earlier, then they changed into native, right? So there may be some reasons behind that. So I think the good, how good is a subjective thing. Depends on the That's my take.
Yeah, just to add some more, right? So I think the first we had this native, that is iOS, C, then Java, Android Java. I think then came this concept of hybrid, right? Now we have intermediary native script. So these technologies are evolving because there's a mass market of developers, right, who are not Java focused, who are not C focused. Now Swift is there. So we have to look at different trade-offs. And that trade-off sometimes happens on the security or the performance side, but gives you a wider developer audience. Right. So when you say hybrid versus native, it also comes down to business, the profile of developers that we have in the community of developers. It's not just hardcore performance or business. Yeah. So if you think a normal, let's say, right, a normal customer like a student app or restaurant app, whatever, right? You just think from that perspective. You don't want to spend $10,000s of dollars when you can get it done for a web app and convert it to Cordova and just launch it, right? For maybe like $50. This is the market rate that's going on. So now you have a choice where you say, okay, I can pump less money, but I can take a hit on the security or the performance part of it.
Yeah, this is a very typical question which happens in a pre-sales discussion. That every customer comes with a delusion that hybrid apps can save the cost. That's true in one perspective. That's not true in different. If you look at it in a different way. When you say hybrid app development, there are a couple of frameworks which are popular. One is Cordova. The other one would be Xamarin. These are the two popular platforms available. And again, there is PhoneGap. PhoneGap is again based on Cordova. This is what we have observed is that when you work with hybrid development, it works mostly with iOS devices, because you have a less number of devices, less form factors, and you can simply optimize it for the iOS devices easily. But when it comes to Android devices, again, it's going to be a lot of painful scenes, that a lot of performance issues. Maybe you write some little animations and it won't work. Maybe the layouts are broken. So many issues we face with hybrid development. So what we mostly observed is with hybrid development, the maintenance cost or the testing cost is high. But when it compares to a native development effort, so it's not like you save the whole development cost and just deliver it. But mostly you'll have to spend time to optimize and make it work for most of your audience. So that's one of the key thing there. The another point, one of the issues we faced a couple of years before, when iOS 7 was released, most of these PhoneGap and Cordova plugins broken. And we were planned the delivery around October time, and this iOS 7 release was just happened in September, and the project developed till that point got we had to delay the release. And when we participate in forums and ask so many questions, even many of these maintainers doesn't know when these plugins will be fixed, or hybrid and native development, especially in terms of iOS development, it is going in an orthogonal direction. Like they don't make sure that all their new APIs are compatible with the hybrid platforms. But there are some improvements happened recently. If you look at Ionic project, it creates very beautiful, very solid ready-made components are available. They also maintain some core plugins, which is the same case with PhoneGap. But Ionic is more aggressive these days on maintaining these things. Then Xamarin is also pushing a lot in terms of pushing C# as the default development language, and it also Xamarin is probably an advanced hybrid platform where you can even customize your UI with your native tools. Like for iOS, you can design everything using Storyboard and integrate with Xamarin. Similar thing for Android as well. You can create your Android design files and integrate with your Xamarin. But it is licensed. It comes with, basically you need to buy Visual Studio license and use it. But again, in terms of technology challenges, it's a good thing that you can learn one language and maintain across different platforms. But if you look at the performance aspects, it may not be really worth considering hybrid in a long-term perspective. Including if you look at some of the popular apps like Facebook, they have moved away from hybrid app, and now everything is on native, and they even open sourced so many open components into the native as native libraries. So it's mostly on this project's perspective, the audience and the kind of user experience they expect, the performance things, etc. So if it is a very simple apps without having much deeper integration with the hardware, maybe it's worth trying for a hybrid development. Also, this helps a lot of people who are coming with with a small fund, and they are trying to pitch their idea to some investors and get it. But often in the long term, most of them I have seen coming for a native iOS development. Native development.
Yeah, I think it is debatable, right? So I think it has many trade-offs. Both has its pros and cons, and budget, performance, etc. So I think there is no clear winner here, right?
For example, some apps demands to maintain the app state. Like for example, you quit the Facebook app and come back, and you expect it takes you to where it was left off before. But that is one of the challenges in the hybrid app, that you navigate through different parts of your UI, and when you come back, it totally refreshes. So basically, the user loses the entire context. Those kind of challenges are there. There are. It is also improving a lot, especially this web technologies are improving a lot, and that instant apps with Google is one of the examples that it is going much more faster than we expect. But these were some of the challenges we already faced, and there are solutions for it. But it again it depends on what your app demands.
Yeah, so I think you all got the answer. It is not there is no clear winner here. I think so. Thank you everyone for your opinion.